There.
All
Every
right,
time I do that, I'm
cool.
like, I gotta edit a little video. But I'm here with Nasser. Nasser, it's been a while since you've been on the channel. Been a couple months at least. How's it going?
Oh, dude, it's going great. And yeah, it has been a while, maybe more than a couple months. I remember we were reading Creepsters and then we just kind of I don't know, we just didn't continue it. We should though.
Yeah,
Or we could even read
time kind
Brutus
of.
on the air. Not on this
Yeah. Oh
stream,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. We
maybe
could do
coming
that.
up. Yeah. Yeah.
Time kind of flies. It goes by. Mark Pengrin is in the chat. He said Creepsters 2 when?
Yes,
Oh,
we're
and you said
launching a
launching
week
the
from
18th.
tomorrow. Yeah,
Okay.
launching the 18th, a week from tomorrow.
Do you have a
On
sign up or anything going on?
No, I
Or
don't
just
actually.
signups? They aren't always even necessary. But yeah, so
Well,
everyone
it's
just keep in mind.
every, I just want to say, like, everybody that signs up, it's usually people I already have their emails, like they're already on the newsletter. So it's just, I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't do it. I mean, it's probably wise to do it just so you could get in new people, but uh, I don't know. I just didn't do it. But yeah,
yeah.
we're going live the 18th. There'll be emails going out and streams and stuff. So
Nice. Sark says quickly approaching late and gay. Yeah, whatever, whatever. I'm gonna
whatever.
screen share. So you DM me asking for about some feedback on a outline, and the first version it was like I don't know, whatever. It was like mildly underwhelming, I guess. But you
Yeah, well,
were,
your feedback more or less was it's boring. Basically. Am I
yeah, that
wrong?
that I forget. I think I just asked you what do you like about it, and then
Yeah.
you
Well,
refocused a little bit.
your feedback was it's boring, and so when I sent this out, I sent it out to because I have to send it to people I could trust, right? That are gonna be honest with me. I've learned since before I ever published anything, I learned that there's certain people you send it to, and they're just kind of yes men. They're just like, yeah, of course. It's like they don't even read it half the time. They're just like, yeah, it's great, bro. Fix this one typo in the third paragraph or something, and that's how I know they didn't even finish reading it. And so when I send out people I could trust, send it to you. I sent it to Hot Dog, sent it to Gable Pennyshot, and I sent it to the Creepsters editor Roy, although I don't think he read it. But there's like 4 people where I'm like, I could trust these people to tell me when it sucks. And so I sent it to you and we scrapped it. So people looking at the screen here, they see version 2. Version 1, I'll just recap it. I forget if it was you or a hot dog. I think it might have been a hot dog that told me it was too like Disney Channel. The original idea was this boy gets a cursed magic set that was once in the ancient local haunted house called the Angstrom House. And he would get this magic set as a birthday gift and accidentally brings a doll to life, but nobody really liked it. So it was time to, rethink it. And so I've kind of got something going here under version 2 that I think is a lot more interesting. And I guess we're just going to do a bit of a writer's room and throw around ideas and see where it goes.
Yeah, and chat, feel free to brainstorm too as we're going. If I'll read out anything that comes up. But yeah, in part one too, it was like 2 plots that were kind of working simultaneously, which you can do that. But and then that might have been one of my notes is like weaving them a little better together potentially. And I don't know what we'll go over this new one, but the other plot in the old one was the kid is suspicious of his neighbor who is an old man who runs a doll shop, and he thinks the old man is a murderer. And then, of course, he does end up being a murderer. So it's kind of these 2 doll-centric stories. And the idea is you want to bring back the most basic element is you want to bring back the killer doll. Um,
Yeah.
so you want this to be a killer doll story, like that subgenre. And yeah, so do you want to go ahead and read version or tell us about version 2 here?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll read it. I'll go over to the tab. But yeah, Act 1, I just jotted down these notes. So there's not even an Act 2 or 3, just so everybody knows. And I don't even know if this is everything that would or wouldn't be in Act 1. All this stuff's open to change, blah, blah, blah. But it would be 15-year-old Ralph and his friends Max and Neil enter the Angstrom house on a dare. Within the Angstrom house, they find a dumb waiter that takes them to a hidden floor where they find a wooden doll in a wooden bed, along with a wooden TV, wooden food, etc. Ralph takes the doll and gives it to his crush Angie, who collects old toys and makes dolls with her mother. Her mother is actually a crazy lunatic, and Angie's father is a OBGYN doing back alley abortions. I know this story gets a little dark, guys, but Angie's lunatic mother, completely crazy, puts the fetuses into the dolls, and the dolls come to life and seek revenge on their mothers. This would probably, just so you guys know, that would be something that happens over like a period of years, like because it's such a small town. So that would be like $1 a year, if that would be like getting revenge. It's not like there's an army of dolls all at once getting revenge on being abortions. But anyways, the doll from the Angstrom house sees Angie as its mother and kills anyone who is mean to Angie or gets between the doll and Angie. Um, the dolls with the fetuses inside of them could come alive and seek revenge on their mothers, with about one death a year in the small town of Ashfall. And perhaps Ralph is fascinated with the murders after the latest murder, the death of his old babysitter. And after the deaths of people close to Angie, the boys, from back to Ralph and his buddies, could suspect Angie of being a murderer herself. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of elements in there and a lot of things I like.
Yeah,
But
you
a lot
kind
of
of
things I'm
stumbled
unsure
on
of.
this because you were throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks for a while there and DMing some
Yeah.
ideas. And then this one came up, and this is completely different from the whole initial pitch. The whole initial idea is kind of doing this fetuses and abortion theme. And I think it's good. I think it's because that's the way horror, like on one hand, you're like, well, you'll alienate some of the audience because whatever far left people who are super pro abortion might be like, what? This is clearly a pro life story.
Right.
How dare you? That kind of thing. But horror always, well, not, I don't know if it's always, but it can be pretty fun when it has that social commentary aspect to it. And that
Well, I
is like,
think well, not to cut you off there, but I think it always has. If you look back at Tales from the Crypt and the Twilight Zone and any older horror thing, it always had a moral to the story of, if you do
yeah.
something wrong, something bad
And
will happen to you.
a lot of slashers, obviously, even at the most basic, they have like "don't be a whore" kind of is
Yeah.
the whatever the theme or whatever. And but this is one fun thing about this too is it's that taking that one step further. So it's like it's kind of a little more modern because it's like, all right, you can be a whore because everyone's a whore these days. So we're not going to kill you for being a whore, but if you then kill your unborn child, then you're going to get it. Then you're going to get whatever dolls seeking revenge. So and then there's two ideas within that are good. I didn't even hear the dolls seeking the revenge on the mom, but that's good. It doesn't. Yeah, you could or may not even use that. But the other one that I really like is the dolls imprinting like a new mother, which then they end up liking that person or whatever. But still being kind of evil. There's a lot of opportunity there. And I have
Yeah.
one thing to think through immediately from this is this was sort of an issue with the first iteration as well, is that there's two dolls and two sets of doll logic in the same story. So you got like there's one type of doll that's like the fetuses that are killing the mothers. Then there's the Angstrom House haunted doll that doesn't have a fetus in it. It's almost like too much
Yeah,
doll magic
well,
systems. Like,
here's the thing. So I briefly talked to my editor Roy about this, and I was thinking, um, because I went through a few different versions of fetus inside a doll's how, and so I had this here. I was also thinking, well, maybe there could have been a lady in the house's past, because this house has been it's been around for a long time, and in fact, I've published 3 super long novels all set in this haunted house. But um, I was thinking there could be a lady at some point in time that lived in this house who could have put her fetus inside the doll. And then if I had this thing where the dolls were seeking revenge on their mothers, well, this fetus has been inside this doll for like 100 years, let's say. It doesn't have a mother, so then it would, imprint on the Angie character. But
okay, yeah, that way it
but
connects. Yeah.
but the
Yeah, I
thing,
think too. Sorry, real quick is
yeah, go
there's
ahead.
some basic kind of structural things that you can almost plug and play with, and that gets to it. Like the mom, Angie's mom, she might be part of a lineage almost of this doll kind of shit that's
Yeah.
been passed down. And then if you trace that back, you get to the Engstrom house. And that,
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
a lot of good horror stories, there's always the mystery, and the mystery is usually just investigating the past. That's actually what like every ghost story ever is. And this is like loosely, you could almost call this a ghost story because with the fetuses and stuff, it's
Yeah.
like so the structure of a ghost story usually is like something kind of terrible happens that usually results in a death. That's the ghost. That kind of starts a curse. And if you get the curse, then you have to solve the mystery and put the soul to rest to lift the curse. So a lot of ghost stories, they end up being mystery stories, basically.
Yeah.
And an example that follows that exact structure, but it's not a ghost story, is Old Boy. You remember that movie? I know you've seen a ton of movies. So
Which one is it? Old Boy?
that's the Korean revenge thriller.
Oh, I don't think I've seen. I know you told me. I think you did tell me about that one, but I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, yeah, that you'd love it. It's on a ton of lists of like movies to watch and stuff. It's like listed as top, whatever type movie. But that one is same kind of thing. Like the curse though is sort of just like a vendetta, but this guy has some terrible things happen to him and they're sort of unexplainable. And he's just trying to figure out like who's doing it to him and he wants to get revenge on them. And that's the story. But that ends up leading him down like a pretty deep rabbit hole of investigating the past and what happened in the past and anything he might have done to possibly like make someone pissed at him or whatever. So that just that basic structure, I think plugging that into the doll thing, uh, then you're almost good to go. The other thing to maybe talk about real quick. So is there anything you want to say? I can pause for a
Well, I
second.
do want to say one thing was, so when I discussed this with Roy about like if there was a lady in the house's past that put the fetus inside the doll, um, he said it might have been a little convoluted if there was, two random women like 100 years apart, let's say, that both had that same idea. But if it's, but what if they were related? What if it was like a lineage kind of thing? What if she's like possessed by like the spirit of one of her like ancestors, like a great 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 grandma or something?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. You could just do something like that and have that be the breadcrumbs kind of leading back to the past, the investigation of the past. But even when you mentioned like the first person to die is
Yeah.
his babysitter, and then the investigation would be he would eventually realize that she had an abortion. That
Yeah.
yeah, and that's like good mystery and good like reveal. And so the story actually, I mean, it could be pretty damn good, and it could be like kind of a ballsy horror story. Like another one that you were throwing around is Terrifier,
Yeah.
um, which that's like a pretty like struck at the right time. Everyone was kind of craving pretty classic gory type
Totally.
movie. But yeah, and a quick story about Terrifier is I wasn't watching it because everyone was saying that it's like torture porn or whatever. But then I saw one YouTuber say it's not torture porn, it's actually really fun. And I watched it, and even with that lens, I was like, it is really fun, except for one super terrible gory thing that you can kind of just close your eyes for. And I haven't seen the second one yet, but I actually want to. But
Oh
Terrifier is
man, the
like,
second one's even better.
yeah, I've seen a little summary on it, and it sounds great. It sounds really fun, like world building kind of stuff, even and some weird shit.
Totally.
But part one is like so simple. I love the simple story is like a lot of fun actually, like just two girls trying to survive kind of thing.
Right.
And yours probably wouldn't be that simple necessarily. I mean, even the fact that it's a mystery and the investigation and everything, but yeah, I do think you should continue to pursue the idea. And so one other random thing to address is what it was from the original note. Uh, it, where he gets the like the game or the possessed doll. He kind of gets it as a birthday gift. Was the original
Yeah.
idea. And
Yeah.
I know there isn't anything like this, but that's always something to take a close look at is how the main characters come into possession of these things. And usually it can be good if it like kind of reinforces the theme or whatever. Like, if it's like a horror story, it's like, you're not supposed to take the doll, but he takes it anyway for like a selfish
Yeah.
reason. And then that ends up kind of becoming a problem or whatever. So, which I think is sort of already there in the DNA of what you typed here. It's like if you want them to just be investigating the house, find the doll, like that's like borderline cliche, but that's kind of okay. In that case, when it's like a little cliche, you can just do it fast, like have the scene be pretty quick, and then it's over, and then you've got it out of the way, and your story's off and rolling, and then you're kind of into the more interesting original stuff, which is like the doll imprinting on the girl as a mom, and the boyfriend investigating deaths that are
Yeah.
apparently teenage girls who are having abortions.
That's a good point about cliches and getting it, over with fast enough. But here's the thing I've actually come to learn about cliches in the last few years is if you do it well enough, nobody's gonna notice you use the cliche. If you do it well enough, just nobody's
Yeah,
gonna really
yeah, there are
point it out.
cliches for a reason, and you can put spin on. Sometimes it's like even the words you use, like because I use the word trope all the time in like a
Yeah,
positive way. I'm just always trying to pack in, and that's something we can talk a little bit about here. Is like, what are the tropes for this setup? Which ones do you want to use? Because they're all so great usually, and you can just kind of plug them in almost. Um, but and like some of the things like what you're saying, like uh, a baby monster imprinting as a mother, that is almost like a trope, but it's not exactly a cliche because it just hasn't. It feels kind of refreshing to me or fresh when I
yeah,
heard you pitch it. I'm like, I mean, it feels like that's a trope, but I can't think of an example of it exactly. You know what one is
yeah.
sort of like it in Futurama actually, Leela with the alien monster. There's a little bit of that, but and that's like a comedy version of it. Um,
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to go with the like imprinting thing is just because I mean, there's so many doll movies where it's just like, well, here's the killer doll, and it almost makes you wonder why. I think that's why Child's Play is just so really good, and why so many people love it, especially the first couple, is because there's like that motive in there where it's like he has to take over the kid's body before a certain time, or he's stuck as a doll, and it's just like horrific. Because you're just like, geez, well, he's gonna become a living doll. Because there are even scenes where you could see like blood coming out of him, like he's in the process of becoming like a humanoid doll creature thing, and it's just like, geez, and this is gonna be a little bit weird. When I was a kid and I saw it, I think a little part of me wanted him to succeed. I was like, I don't want him to be a doll, but then part of me was cheering on for Andy. I was like, I hope he doesn't get Andy, but
yeah, that's a good
yeah,
point. And
yeah,
that aspect of the world building is really fun. That the doll has this huge lore to it, and that is like it's interesting because if it's a fetus, it didn't even get a chance to be a
yeah,
person yet. But you could still do you maybe want to find ways to inject some of that humanity and lore, even though it's a fetus, even if it's like through the mom. So you're investigating the mom, how she got pregnant, even the father, like because people would be kind of interested in that to find out what
yeah,
this and the way horror movies sometimes are too, but because it's so like there is a little bit of a tightrope of the themes and how far you want to go, how much you want to mess with. But if it like it could be a reveal that the father was a serial killer, and then so the fetus is this, like father like son or whatever. But then that
could be
definitely is like
interesting.
kind of a negative spin or in so I don't know, like, but there's that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think if you even type out just like an pretty interesting way to get things rolling, then it's just the ghost story structure of investigating the past to find out why this essentially a curse, and maybe try to define a little bit what the curse is. The curse is kind of like there are these murderers happening in town, and it seems to be teenage girls who have recently had abortions are like getting
Right.
targeted. And and but and any I like there's it's fun because it's a pretty simple idea. That simple idea would require, if you want to explore, like, so it's, if it's the babysitter, she recently had an abortion, you have a boyfriend character who may or may not be a douchebag. And so it quickly expands, and like you have the person who helped her perform the abortion, who may or may not be Angie's father, it is kind of fun if it's all one weird pod. It's almost like a
Yeah.
Carrie thing. Like this is one fucked up house. Like you could do it like that, or it could be somewhere else. Like you could just be another character. But then you could have, again, kind of find striking that balance. But you could have some people protesting and even trying to threaten like some super pro life people who are like, if they knew like who he was, or like he has to stay kind of protected and anonymous because they really would like whatever do terrorist attacks on him.
Yeah, he
That
he
that
could
could,
do it anonymous, but it'd be interesting if there were some people trying to expose him, or even if the police one day put it together. Like there have been, I don't know, let's say like 5 or 6 dead girls over the last 5 or 6 years, and the only connection is you were their doctor. Be kind of interesting.
yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, so just that fact that because a lot of things also that this fits pretty well with that horror can do pretty well is it can kind of do a little bit of like a what do they call it? Like a melodrama plot, like a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
almost yeah, almost like a soap opera, like a teenage soap opera. And then you inject the mystery on top of it, the curse that's very interesting, and then even kind of the X factor being that at least one doll imprinted with either the girl as probably the girl. It could be the
yeah,
guy, whatever, but uh, the girl as the um, yeah, there's a lot of fun. You could end up having like a doll versus doll fight,
yeah.
if like the girl does get an abortion and then something's coming for her and whatever. But yeah, I think it's pretty fun. Are you at this point though? I feel like you don't need me really. Like we can brainstorm a little bit, but there's enough there for you to do a whole like outline and first draft and everything. Um,
There probably is. I don't know, I'm curious what the chat thinks. Dale Aces, is this a novel? Yeah, it will be. Um, it's one of the ones I'm eager to get to next. I
yeah,
probably I probably will write this one. Well, thing is, I've got like a couple. Pardon me. I don't want to yawn on the air. I've got like I want to do a series, so part of me is like also like trying to think up like the sequel ideas. I kind of have a bit of one, which I'm going down here to Act 3. If you want to scroll down a bit, so you could see where I am, but I kind of feel like Act 3 probably like I'll take it off of bold. Let me see. Let's see. Ends with a big showdown in the toy store. The store burns down. This could change, by the way. This is just kind of what I see at the moment. Store burns down. The kids think the doll is dead, and then um, a wealthy antique collector buys the remains and has it restored, setting up the sequel.
yeah, that's fine. One thing I was thinking as you're typing is there is like movies that you can take as inspiration, which some of them you've probably seen. And there was one I was thinking of as you're talking, like Chucky's one, obviously, because it's Killer Doll. But Gremlins is that
Oh yeah,
it's not Killer Dolls, but it is. And like Gremlins, there's things that it does really well. Like it does how the kid comes into possession of the gremlin is a lot more fun than just like it is like a birthday present, but you get the whole little mini
yeah,
story that it was his dad visiting the crazy store. He's a inventor, like all that tacked on is like so fun. So keep that in mind. Like you can expand the lore out that direction of how it gets to the possession. But honestly, it them just going into the haunted house and finding it is kind of fun. There's an anime about girls entering a haunted house. If I can think of it, I'll send you the link. But it's pretty good. And there was one other movie that I was going to say that you should definitely take as some inspiration. If I think of it, I'll say it. I can always message it to you later too. But
Dim-witted chicken in the chat says Puppet Master. Yeah, Puppet Master was a huge influence on me, especially with Creepsters. Um, believe it or not, I know everyone makes the Gremlins joke, but if you if you read Creepsters book 1, I mean There's at the beach, there's like the motel looking it over. I gave my artist reference from Puppet Master for the Bodega Bay Inn that overlooks the sea, for that. And it really, that was half of it. I really love Puppet Master, and when I watched the first Puppet Master, I was like, geez, the puppets are in it for like 3 whole minutes, and I couldn't even complain because I liked what they did with the characters. But
Yeah,
even though the creepsters are in creepsters a lot, it just gave me a lot of ideas for what to do when the creatures aren't being seen. Because there's like a in Puppet Master. I mean, gosh darn it, it's like a goofy schlocky movie, but I really can't help but feel it's extremely Kino. I just really like it, and the way it's structured and the way it's written. I think it's very well written,
yeah.
and I don't know, it was a lot of my inspiration for creepsters.
Um, by the way, I thought of the other thing. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. How familiar
Oh,
are
Five
you
Nights
with
at Freddy's.
that series?
No, I mean, I've heard of it, but I haven't like played it or anything. I don't really game.
Yeah, yeah. There's like a. Do you ever follow the YouTube channel Wendigoon? He would be up your alley, actually. I don't know if you
Actually, one of my friends sent me a link to one of his videos, and I subscribed, but I don't think I watched any.
he's pretty awesome, and talks about all sorts of stuff. It's definitely like up yours in my alley. But he does like there. I don't know how long. Usually they're a little bit longer, so it's like a 2 hour video. That's the entire story of Five Nights at Freddy's explained. And there's for one, you should almost watch it because there's some overlap with what you're doing, so you don't want to like maybe even have it too much overlap. So it's just good to just know, but also just inspiration. And there's times where you can just take like it's because you're mixing and matching. So because I think Five Nights at Freddy's, the basic story is it's the aggrieved father tries to bring back his son who died like from these machines, and he puts the kid into these monsters, and then the soul like whatever. It's like putting fetuses in dolls kind of. It's like what they do, but
Yeah,
they put the dead kids into the mechanic logo monster mascots or whatever. But yeah, so a few of those like just what I always do that when if I'm writing something, I'll try and make a list of movies that are like up the same alley, and I'll watch it for like
yeah,
inspiration. And you can get a lot that way, and even some of the tropes come up that you might want to use or avoid if it's more like if you feel like it's more like a cliche or whatever. Another quick thing to talk about is the characterizations. Um, so the mom being a lunatic, I was like, so it seems like, well, oh yeah, and if there's the one killer doll that imprints on Angie, and then it's like, is there like how many other killer doll? Is it just one other rogue killer doll that the mom made, or is it like 10? It could be either way. Like both could be kind of fun, but
well, I was thinking this. It would be like, let's say the OBGYN has been doing these abortions just for like, I don't know, I'll say anywhere from 5 to 10 years. That could put us at like 5 to 10 killer dolls that got revenge on their mothers, and then I don't know, what did they do, crawl over and die? Or maybe they've, I don't know, gotten like sold at antique shops and gone off to different towns, or they're I don't know, somewhere anywhere in this town, and they could pop up really at any time. It'd be interesting if they were under control of like the main doll. Maybe because that main doll is made out of wood from like the Angstrom House woods, um, where the Angstrom family cemetery is. It'd be interesting if that makes him like super powerful or has some sort of control over the other dolls. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that's where like a little bit of the Gremlins stuff, like Gremlins, there's a lot of them, and it has one in particular that is like the sort of good one, and that's Gizmo. But like you have
Yeah.
the one doll that imprints on the girl, so it would almost be like a good doll, but maybe it still has some bad things it does. I don't know. But then the other dolls would be like more evil. Um,
Well, I don't think the first one, the main one, would be a good one though. I think it would think it's a good one. It wouldn't actually be one though. Like, I don't know. I could see it doing the typical like killing the girl with bullies or whatever,
yeah,
or
yeah.
anybody, yeah, anybody like that. But I was also curious what you thought of like right here. I have like at the act at end one, like after the deaths of people close to this chick Angie, like her friends, the three boys, they would suspect her of being a murderer. I don't know. That's just like kind of funny to me. But like, I'm curious what you think of that because I could see Act Two starting with like this. The boys do stakeout and everything goes wrong. And by that I mean they could be attacked. Somebody could get
Yeah,
killed, whether
that's
it's
cool.
them
You know what
or
you
one
should
of the
do
neighbors.
with
Yeah.
that is if say it's two boys, I don't know, but and this is like a Star Trek thing. They have Kirk and the Doctor McCoy. They'll like they want the same thing, but it's for totally different reasons, kind of. So you have one boy who's like, she's a killer, we got to catch her, and the other guy's like, she's not the killer, but we do need to figure out what's going on. So one guy's trying to prove her innocence, one guy's trying to prove her guilty. That would be cool, I think. And
Right, right.
they're kind of like friends, but they like disagree or whatever. Or they could even be like not friends, and they're brought together by this unified goal or whatever to try and investigate what's happening around this girl.
Right,
Um,
yeah, like one of the boys could die, or maybe like somebody, I don't know, a neighbor or throwaway could die.
yeah,
I don't know,
yeah, and
but
because
I
if
like that idea a lot.
for a boy to suspect like her of being guilty, there'd have to be like some also kind of some evidence against her and or him having his own motivation, like if he's her ex-boyfriend and he's jealous now and he just really doesn't like her or like something like that. Because you just
Oh,
don't
well,
want him to be stupid for just for the sake of the plot. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what would be a good one? So if the boy gives her the doll in the first place because he's got a crush on her, it'd be interesting if the other boy did too, and he's like, no, you just think she's a killer because she likes me, not you, that sort of thing, maybe.
yeah, yeah, I think that actually could be kind of cool. And that's like it's cool because that's very simple too, but that fills that role that you need. You need a little bit of the teenage drama, and then you got it. Like it's like a little bit of this love triangle kind of thing, unrequited ish or whatever, between two boys and a girl, and that's at the heart of your story. And then you got this other stuff happening. Um,
Dale
yeah,
uh, Dale Ace is browsing through Nasser's Amazon page. Apparently, the story is a sequel, and he posts the link to my haunted house book. Yes, all my books are kind of interconnected. I'll be brief on this, but the haunted house trilogy takes place in the Angstrom house in the town of Ashfall. So does this story. I recently put out a book called Nightmare Town that this couple, I told you about it. They go on the run. They actually do stop in Ashfall at the and momentarily at the Angstrom house, and they go to all the other cities. I've got a 8 book that'll probably be 10-book series called The Ravenhill Butcher. It's a slasher series, and they even stop in Ravenhill for a bit in this book I recently wrote called Nightmare Town. So all my stories kind of they all kind of in ways are sequels, or at least they all take place in the same cities and whatnot. So
yeah, cool. Ken Jacobin says, maybe there are 12 of them, and yours is the top, or to stop the 13th one from being because if the 13th is created, their power will increase dramatically. There could be something like that of like if so not you don't necessarily need to do this too. It's in some ways too like the simplest is the best, and then even like it's because it
yeah.
is fun in horror movies when the lore you know it's there, but you don't even know exactly what it is, but it like hints at deeper stuff.
Well, you know what
But
I was thinking? I was thinking maybe it'd be interesting if well, okay, if we're it depends on which way we do this, because I was thinking it'd be interesting if the main doll, if it were to try and because well, let me back up a little bit. So if the doll is made out of wood that comes from the Angstrom family cemetery that's behind, the haunted house, and presumably a soul from one of the dead Angstroms is inside this doll. It'd be interesting if it was trying to make bodies for like other dead, relatives. It could be interesting.
oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there could be that. There could be the motivation of the doll doing something besides just like protecting. But
But
again, I
in
kind of do like the simple thing where it's just
yeah.
protecting mommy and
Cause you
she
know
has
what's
to kill
cool
it.
about Terrifier? I know in the second one, they still haven't revealed a motive, although they're building towards an origin. I like that Art the Clown isn't really like I don't know. he just goes around massacring people basically for the lulls. I guess I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like that. I think if he like I don't know. I think if the doll really had to make bodies for the spirits of
Yeah,
other
that
relatives, it
almost
would be a little
changes the
convoluted.
story. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little too much. But another angle on that is Ken Jackman's kind of thing is it could be that the mom, because it is a little bit like, why is she doing it? And I was like, there's some ways you could answer that, but she could be trying to do some kind of ritual that is passed down over the years, and she's essentially like a witch. It could be like part of it, or she could just be like you're saying, like a lunatic. Which again, the simple one's a little bit funner. But then if she's a lunatic, that was one thing I was going to say is there should be some characterization there. And again, there's a cliche that would work, whereas she's the uber religious, crazy person.
Right.
And that actually would sort of balance the fact that like you're it's good if you roast everyone, maybe rather, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
tackling
But
such an
I
interesting
mean,
concept as abortion.
there's the potential here for if there was somebody in this haunted house's history that had an abortion, put the baby in the doll, if that person's related to this girl's mom, and that could kind of explain why she's crazy, whether she's a reincarnation or whether she's possessed,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, it should be
or
like her baby
something.
sister that was born before her or something. Um, yeah, that's cool. Those kind of stories are sweet. There's
Yeah.
another one like that. It's called Sisters by Brian De Palma. You ever heard of
Oh,
that
of
one?
course. My favorite director, man.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love
That's a
Sisters so
cool.
much.
Yeah, that's like the lore of the birth and blah blah blah. All that stuff is cool. Um,
Anytime I'm stuck on a story, I honestly I ask myself what would Brian De Palma do? Because, geez, dude, uh there's just never a dull moment. Something always happens. There's always a twist, or there's always the threat of somebody being found out. Like in Sisters, for example, I forget who all the characters are that are in the scene, but it's when the chick has to hide the dead body inside the couch, and then the reporter chick comes over and she brings the police over, and the camera goes down like this, and behind the couch you see there's some blood coming out, and it's like, geez, now there's a threat of them finding that. The reporter chick finds the cake in the fridge that has the evidence written on it, and then she's going and she trips and it falls, and it's like, geez, now she has no evidence. That movie just screwed with me so bad. It's man, I love it. I could go on a I could just talk about that movie all day. It's so good.
yeah, it is really cool. And yeah, even the scenes that you just described are cool. Um, yeah, Jackman says she could have been driven mad by like the curse on the family. Yeah,
She
it
could
being even if you don't call it a curse, having it conceptualizing it as a curse is a potentially good way to do it because then it's kind of to lift the curse, you have to investigate, understand, and confront, and that's like a story. That
well
could almost be the
well
story.
Ken Jack Ben says the madness is what drives her to make the dolls. I wonder if this lady, if she maybe she was researching like a family connection of her to the family from the Engstrom house, and maybe if that drove her well, it didn't drive her crazy, but maybe she got possessed during her research. And maybe part of why it was so easy to possess her is perhaps it's before the girl and the main girl in this story is even born. Perhaps the mother character, maybe she had a miscarriage, and so she just kind of occupied her time by making dolls, and then it could,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what another cool kind of plot is like how much you can beef up because speaking of it in like acts, like there would
yeah,
be the early part of the mysteries before they even know the big mystery. It's the little mystery of the first death, and it's a girl who had recently had an abortion. They will find that out, but there's that whole investigation that leads them to further investigations. They start learning what's really going on, but it just starts with this initial mystery of a girl dying. And that
you
alone is fun, but that could be cool if she has a boyfriend, but it wasn't her boyfriend who impregnated her. So she was having an affair with an older dude who was like 40 and he was like a punk, like a biker punk. And they eventually track him down. And then they learned that she did have an abortion. He was the dad, and he could like turn up dead too or something, But
you
having
know
that
what could be
little a mini
interesting?
mystery within the mystery is like that's how you get a cool longer story with this with the sweet
So
narrative drive.
So you weren't that interested, or you didn't like the point much that he just finds it, he's like, oh, this would be a good birthday gift and gives it to her, right? It could be interesting this if he's like, my babysitter was murdered, and he's like trying to like figure out her last days, and somebody somewhere says she visited the Angstrom house, and something in there like followed her and killed her. Just like, just complete BS, just like just like a kind of somebody's just like goofing on him. So he actually takes it seriously though, and he goes to the house and he's like looking for clues about who killed his babysitter, and then that's how they find like the dumbwaiter, and they go up and then they find the doll. And I don't know, I think that might tie it together a bit more, instead of just like, I went here for the lulls, we were dared to. It'd be interesting if it's like part of his investigation.
Yeah, that could work. Then the only thing is, it's a little weird picking where the story starts because they call it like end media res. I think if you
Yeah,
start like that feels a little weird if you just cut in and he's like, all right, let me catch you up. He wouldn't even, I don't know what you'd do, but you could start it with like a Star Wars text scroll. Like he's been it's like you would basically need to do a whole nother movie. And no matter what, there's like, you start with the status quo usually, and then it's interrupted, so the murder could be the
yeah.
interruption. So you would still show some status quo. So it is the most efficient is still maybe it being that cliche, like literally like a dare, and they go into the haunted house, and then that starts the story. Um, it is kind of okay. I don't necessarily mind because that does the version that I didn't like is that there was a version where he just got it as a gift, like the
Yeah.
game set or whatever, and that was, and you could even kind of explain that, like Gremlins. I think he gets the Gremlin as a gift, but as long as you have the extra scene explaining, like, because that's part of the fun is like the vector, like they use
Yeah.
that term for like viruses of like who had it, then they had it, then they had it, then they had it, and it's like the doll has its own vector that's kind of fun. But yeah, so you're at least going back one step. So if it goes from the Ingstrom house to the girl via the boy who wants to impress the girl or whatever, that's like that works. That's kind of cool. You could try and get like one more vector in there if it's how it even got to the house, which is that gets investigated later, like you're saying, if it was made by the wood. Because I guess, yeah, because there's
Yeah.
two parts. There's the dolls have a woman who puts the fetuses in them, and then they also assumingly have a, a doll maker, I guess, and whether or not he is involved.
Well,
Um,
it would be like the crazy mom would be the one making the dolls, though.
yeah, so maybe they're the both. They're both, but I guess for the wooden one, it could be two different people, and that could be another character in the lore. Is like there's the doll maker, then there's his crazy wife,
Oh,
then
well, what's
there's
what's interesting about that is there was in the third Angstrom book, there's actually a flashback to this family that moves in after the mansion's been abandoned for like 20 years, and he actually makes little wooden dolls for his daughters to play with, and these little wooden dolls come to life because they were made with wood from the Angstrom woods. So I was thinking I could also flash back to him making a big doll too, and like the daughters just lose it. They just they lose it. And then there could be like some other lady that just, if she finds this big wooden doll, and let's say it has a compartment in the back that opens up or something, like, it's hollow on the inside, maybe a compartment for hiding something. That's when where she could hide the fetus in there. And then, like 100 years later, her descendant is, kind of doing that. It's been kind of driven crazy.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. So we'll still stay alive for a bit, but we're kind of winding down a little bit. Like I've said almost everything I want to say, but I did want to say it sounds good. Like I'm kind of excited to see where it goes and what you do with it. I think this is one of your better, but even like the potential is kind of fun. Like it feels
Things
pretty
bite.
high concept. It feels like it could be like we all dream of selling a screenplay to Hollywood or
Yeah.
whatever. This one could definitely feel like it could sell, except for the fact that it's like about abortion, which Hollywood would never make that. But if they got
Well,
balls, then they would, then they should. So.
well, it's like I would kind of have to I would have to do a lot of schmoozing to tell them, no, it's actually a pro-abortion story because blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
have to think of something. Um,
yeah. That's funny, but yeah, don't let that sway you. Yeah, stay the course as you're writing this
Yeah.
iteration, because it can be like it does feel like the way what horror is supposed to be. It feels a little modern, and it does feel like the social commentary could actually be kind of on point. Like it could actually be like kind of like, yeah, like insightful and of the time in a good way, not in like a stupid way, kind of.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
if but if I were to do a sequel, because I do want to do like 3 or 4 books here. If I did a sequel, I'm kind of wondering what would make it different from this first one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or is that just a burn to bridge when I get there?
Yeah, I would do it when you get there, I guess, because it's like I don't think you should conceptualize it as a trilogy the way like you need to read all three to get the story. It's like like the Matrix wasn't like that. Like the Matrix worked on its own, then they made
Yeah.
a trilogy, and that kind of ruined, like pissed a lot of people out, or they kind of sucked or whatever. But like sequels, like I don't know, there's what do they do? Like they did there's only a few things you can do. You can make it just more of it. So like aliens or gremlins even or whatever, just make it bigger. Or you can a funny one that was way outside the box was it Halloween 2, I think? Didn't they, or maybe Halloween 3. They turned it into a they completely changed the entire story
Yeah.
for the where it
Halloween
became a
3.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
mask
Yeah,
that
Season
makes
of the
people
Witch.
crazy.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite one out of all of them. Is actually part 3.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. So like there's that where it's quite a bit different, but same kind of world or whatever.
Well, I was thinking actually, because I was thinking, if there's several dolls with fetuses in them, I mean, they could just go off and have their own story. It doesn't even have to be the same characters. It could take a bus to another city.
Yeah.
You know.
It could be
So
cool if not all of them are evil, or at the end of this one, even if once their souls are released or something, then they're
yeah,
not, a few of them aren't evil, and then you could follow them a little bit. And another, in Jurassic Park, there's a scene where the T-Rex fights the raptors. Like, I kind of do think even in this one, you don't, yeah, don't need to do this, but I do think it'd be cool if two dolls ended up fighting each other.
yeah,
One's trying to kill Angie and one's trying to save her. That would be funny slash cool.
yeah. So
Um,
when so like 3 years ago, so the first version of this that you read that we briefly recapped, we didn't really talk much about it. I actually wrote that like 3 years ago, and it was so awful. Like I skimmed through it, and I was like, "This is garbage." So I wrote like that new outline that I had showed you, and you're like, "Yeah, it's still boring." And I had written like a few killer doll books, and they're just like all gonna be scrapped because this is so much more interesting. But I like that. I like when you see like the story like evolve and take on a new shape and form. And I like it a lot too because I feel it's always been my biggest weakness. I know most writers when they get on the stream or something and they always talk about like their process or how good they are or things they do. But I think this is like the really like underrated, underappreciated is coming up with a new idea that changes the whole thing. Preferably you do that before you even start writing. You get a new idea and it's like it changes everything. Because it sucks, to throw out like I wrote a 60, 70,000 word novel. I'm going to throw it all out. But I really like seeing the story change and become better and stronger. And
yeah,
this is just always so interesting to me. It's something I've done a lot more of lately, where you get a new idea and it just completely morphs the whole thing. So I really dig that.
yeah. And this one has like the high concept and even the starting point where it kind of gives you a little bit of that feeling, like feels like it's writing itself. Like there's plenty to do, plenty to explore and
Yeah,
have fun with. So that's always a good position to be in with from a writing perspective.
I did
Um,
write one killer doll novel one time that was different. I think I'm gonna if I ever revisit it, I'll probably like scrap all of it. But I don't know if you like this. I was reading a comic book one time, and I love reading the old ads in them. And there was one of them that was like, "Order your own monster ghost doll. It obeys your every command." And so I wrote this novel based on that ad, like maybe 4 years ago, and and it was like it was just so stupid. The boy is like new in town and he's just like, geez, I hate this guy I just met. And so like the little doll like goes and kills that guy. It's just so goofy and stupid.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Fine, I guess it's good you have the whatever you put the time in on the killer dolls, so you're like you're you you're well versed in that world of writing those kind of stories. Real,
Yeah.
real quick, 19 people watching. I just want to let everyone know Hotel Story is available. 188 backers so far. 11,250, approaching 12,000. A little over a week we've been up, so we're doing okay. Really appreciate all the backers, and I'm sure many more to come. And in the chat, if you haven't backed, take a look. Definitely consider it. This is a horror story, Nasser. Have you
Hell
seen
yeah.
much about this one?
Not yet, but you know I'm gonna back it.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, it's like it's this one has that simple pitch too. It's the witch casts a six-part spell from the top floor suite of Hotel Constantinople, a mass sacrifice to renew an ancient contract. That's the story. That's all it is. It's
Right.
300 pages, but that's like the story.
Bro, that's
This
based.
this is part one, so this is this wraps up like in its own little section, but it's 124 pages, and then part two will be like 150 or so, and it's uh and then that ends the night. So it all takes place over one night too. So um
It looks really good, bro. I'm gonna be a backer.
Dele, how do you measure the narwhal nudge on Amazon? Dele might have bought one of your books, Nasser. He's checking out your
Oh,
store.
thanks, Dale. Uh, well, I don't know how we measure the narwhal nudge, but I appreciate anybody that buys any of these books. It's actually been my best year yet on Amazon because I got really nice covers now that are AI. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about AI art really, but
I don't mind. It's funny, a
uh,
lot of people hate it though, yeah, for sure.
yeah, a
But
lot
yeah.
of people hate it, but I don't know. It's a tool. You got to get with the times. I don't know.
Yeah.
I even use Chat GPT not to write the stories, but to write like the book blurbs and to
Yeah.
write like I've done I created some new ads that I just post here and there on like Facebook or Twitter. Or really more so just images. They're not really ads. I'm not really putting any money behind them in that sense. But I just if I tell it like this is a story, I need like two sentences of like really good like ad copy, like, can you write me something? And it does it, and then we just refine it a little, tell it make it shorter or emphasize this point, and it does, and it's really good. And I really like it because you know how many times like somebody like me, because I'm kind of autistic or retarded or something, and I'm just, if I get on here and I have a I mean, you've probably seen it all the time when I'm on here and somebody's like, "Hey, pitch me your Indiegogo," and I kind of like, I'm like a spasming idiot, and I don't know. I think a lot of writers are like that, to be honest. And I don't know, something like Chat GPT that's like, if you tell it like, "Hey, here's my story. Can you write me a book blurb or a pitch or
Yeah.
something?" It spits it out real well. So like I'm all for that stuff because I don't know, it makes everything look better. Like as far as blurbs, because not everybody's a good like blurb writer. I know I'm not. And
Yeah. Yeah, that would
I
be a
don't know.
perfect use for Chat GPT. That gives you a useful perspective too of being like you're kind of like the boss almost with someone working underneath you. You have to give them notes. You have to look at your own
Yeah.
work through a fresh perspective. It could be useful for that. That was one random thing I noticed is um, when I started getting a little more into animation, I hired some actors and we did some recording sessions and they had to read my writing. And I immediately kind of leveled up because I immediately felt
Yeah.
really embarrassed and self conscious about all my dialogue. And that perspective was very valuable. And I wouldn't have had that unless I had gone through that experience.
You know what else it could do too? I recently, after somebody read one of my books and he gave me feedback and stuff, I like pasted a chapter into Chat GPT. I was like, "Can you give me feedback on this?" Now, Chat GPT, I don't think it's the greatest for feedback on your writing because it just tries to be too nice and it tries to tell you, yeah, just like the yes men. It's like, "Oh, fantastic, wonderful," that sort of stuff. And its criticisms really aren't criticisms, but what I liked was it caught a typo or two that my buddy that read the book kind of overlooked, and so it was like, oh, and I think you meant this word, not that word. And I looked, I was like, oh yeah, typo. So I fixed it, and that's something I'm actually going to start doing. Is I'm just going to paste each chapter in there or every page or something like, can you catch any typos, please? And it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just
Cool.
something.
That is cool. Sweet. So yeah, good little session here, and keep me abreast of the situation, and we can check in later or whatever. But it sounds cool. And we didn't do like I didn't do much. You came with that idea. You were the one who pitched it to me, and it's already there. It's a great idea. So that's kind of we just talked through it a little bit. But yeah, cool.
This
So
was
I'm
fun.
gonna
We got to do this again soon.
yeah, we'll have you on again. We'll figure something out. Maybe read Brutus or something. But yeah.
Yeah, we could read Brutus.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna end the stream. Thanks everyone for being
Alrighty.
here. 18 people. See you guys later.
Back hotel story.